Welcome to Target Market Insights, the multifamily and marketing podcast. Each week, John Kasman interviews multifamily and marketing experts to teach you how to find the best places to invest, attract investors, and grow your portfolio. You are listening to Target Market Insights with your host, John Kasman.
Welcome to Target Market Insights. I'm your host, John Kasman, and I want to thank you for joining us for another great episode. Now, if you're enjoying this podcast, I need you to do me a favor. Take a minute and leave us a 5-star rating and review. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Now, today we're going to be talking to Kay Kay Singh. Kay Kay was a Microsoft certified system engineer turned successful entrepreneur and multiple business owner, owning multiple gas stations, convenience stores, a laundromat, 40 single family homes in Northeast Indiana, and an investor in around 2,764 units as both a limited partner and a general partner in multifamily syndicated deals. Let's welcome to the show, Kay Kay Singh.
Thank you very much, John, for having me on your show.
Kay Kay, thank you for coming on Target Market Insights. I'm really excited to talk to you today. You are in the Fort Wayne, Indiana area, but you didn't start there. I want to hear a little bit about your journey and kind of how you wound up in Fort Wayne.
Well, I started my journey in Indianapolis, not too far from here. I was a Microsoft certified system engineer and lost my job immediately after 9/11. And then it was only about six, 7 months when I had come to America, spent all my money buying a car and the house stuff. And soon after I lost my job, and I had some friends who were in the gas station business, and they offered me a partnership in one of their gas stations to help them out manage that business. So I started with them, and after about 6-7 months, the lease was almost expiring at that time. So they didn't renew the lease with us. So I decided to buy a gas station and end up in Fort Wayne buying a gas station with the partnership with my cousin.
Awesome. So you started really, as an engineer right after 9/11, you get let go. You go into a partnership with some guys, in the gas station business, and then you kind of propel from there. So what happens after that?
Well, they had about 6 months left on the lease, and they were thinking that we're going to have another 5-year lease, but the owner of the property, he refused to renew the lease for another 5 years. So I was nowhere left, and I had ended up in the gas station business, buying a gas station in partnership with my cousin.
There you go.
Here in Fort Wayne.
And you didn't intend on that, right?
Never.
So you find yourself owning this gas station. How do you figure out what to do? I mean, I know obviously you have partners who had more experience, but how much hands-on learning did you have to go through to really understand how to operate a gas station?
Well, since I had worked at the gas station and managed the gas station for about 7 months before I started my own business, so that was enough for me to learn the business. So I didn't have much hard time, but as you said, I had some friends who were in the business for years, and I could have, if I had something to ask for, so I could have asked them. But I was the first Sikh to own a gas station in Fort Wayne.
Nice. So that's amazing. Breaking those grounds and creating new avenues and new ways for people. Love that. And for those who don't understand Sikh, could you just maybe give them a little bit of cultural context?
And that was John 20 years back. Wow. In 2001.
Yeah.
So I am a Sikh by religion, and you can search online, go type Sikh, and there's a lot of it's the 5th largest religion in the world, and Sikhs are all over the world, and we like to work hard and way up, and a lot of Sikhs are here in the United States. They came with either very little or no money, and they worked there hard to be at a position where I am now, a lot of people are in my situation, and a lot of people are above me too.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. We talk a little about the immigrant story, and I love hearing the story for a couple of reasons. One is, when you think about the ways you can drive success in this country in particular, America, and you think about, there's obviously challenges the country has. When you think about the positives and you think about the possibilities, that really comes to life when you look at really that immigrant journey and the immigrant story, because you can come here, you can lose, study hard, go to college, get a great job as an engineer, lose your job. Now you got to start all over. You find yourself in the gas station business, and you can still claw and grow and create a beautiful portfolio and a very diverse portfolio based on that. And I think it's very inspiring for all Americans and everyone across the world, really, to understand the power of opportunity that exists in this country if you have the right mindset. You talked about working very hard, but then also you talked about, your cousin and friends and having that community around you. And I think community is very important. If you don't have the means right now, finding and tapping into the community that can help uplift you, where you can continue to add value as well. But tapping into that community is a great way to propel yourself forward. You got to surround yourself with the right people. That's a really important aspect of driving success, is being around people who can help do that for you, help put you in the right situations and being in the right network. So it's really important to make sure we're spending our time with people who can help us elevate and become the best versions of ourselves. KK, you have, really a diverse portfolio. I mentioned in your bio, the gas stations, the laundromats, the single family homes, the multifamily. What inspired you to kind of, expand beyond just the gas station space, going into laundromat and then eventually real estate?
So, John, I think America is a land of opportunities, and it all depends how you have a mindset. So I had an entrepreneurial mindset from day one. Even when I was in India, I was doing some kind of business all the time. And the only time in my life I had a W-2 job was about 6 months. So I was always thinking of opportunities. And as you know, your wife is Indian. So Indians are, especially the state I belong to, from Punjab. Punjabis are very hardworking people, and they have a big heart too. So when I lost my job, and this is very important to mention here, I had a friend there. We went to college together for about a year or two, and he said, "Don't worry about the job. We can partner with you." He gave me a 30% share in the gas station without any money. I didn't have, he offered me a share for free. He said, all you got to run the business. So there are ways. And I did the same thing to other people. So it's not just I took that opportunity and never replicated that opportunity. So I did the same thing with my nephew, my friends. I have like 5 partners, my daughter, my son-in-law. So I have a team, and they have been with me for 20 years since I started. The first business, my nephew was a partner with me, though he didn't work at the gas station. He had another job, but he was a partner with me, and now he's partner with me in several businesses, and my other partners are also partner with me. And that's why we diversified, because I had the time to learn about other businesses which we didn't know anything about. So for example, in 2012 there was a great opportunity to buy properties. So there was a lot sitting vacant just by my gas station, and I decided to move on to the not the multifamily, the laundromat business, because I thought, okay, when the business is slow in winters, the laundromat becomes busy. So you can balance if you are losing business. So I was trying to do it on almost all our gas stations are around the town, but people tend to follow me a lot in our community because I have been a successful businessman over the years, and they came in installed like 4 new laundromats in my town.
Nice.
So, yeah, in this city. So I thought we are at a saturation point and we need to find some other business. So, and I was offered a single family portfolio of 40 single family houses by a community member at our church. And I had no idea what even a cap rate is, because gas stations are not sold or bought on cap rates. They're differently underwritten and differently calculated. So he offered me these 40 single family houses, and he said, I want to sell them to you. I said, why me? I'm not interested. I have never done this business. I don't know, and I am not interested in this rent business. So I have done is gas station business. He said, I will help you for a year. How about that? So, and he gave me a pretty good deal. I discussed with my partner, my nephew, and he said, let's give it a shot. And we bought those 40 single families without doing any calculations at all, without getting any financials from him, without knowing the cap rate, and even without hiring an attorney.
Wow. So really off the strength of the relationship. I mean, he came to you, said, I want to sell to you. You said, why? Talk to your family, talk to your friends, and eventually said, okay. And then that was it. You guys made the deal. And he stayed on for years. So he kind of helped you make the transition. I think that really goes to show the character he saw in you, right? Because he was very specific that it wasn't that he was taking us to the open market seeking the highest bidder. He wanted you to own these properties because he knew you would know how to do it, what to do with it, and it would probably prosper and help other people if you had it, because you could help other folks learn about real estate and grow as well. So I think that just speaks volumes about the work you had done up to that point in your community to earn that kind of trust and reputation.
Yeah, I had, and I knew this person for about 14, 15 years, but that wasn't actually the story. The story behind that was he had sold those houses twice. He was 82 years old, and he had sold those houses twice, but they couldn't get financing. So that's why he wanted to sell it to me, because he knew he could trust me if I couldn't even get financing, and he knew that I would get financing so that he can get paid, because he wanted to retire.
He knew you qualified.
Yes, and he promised to help me for a year, but I took his help only for 10 days.
Oh wow!
Because he was old school.
Yeah.
I never realized that he was old school, and he was spending a lot of his time managing these houses. He and his wife, they used to go at 9 and come home at 5. And I had other businesses where I was an active partner. And also at that time, I was managing one gas station and a laundromat as well. I said, I don't have that much time to go there at 9 o'clock and come back at 5 o'clock. So I automated the system, and I had tech background, and I took everything online, did online leases and automatic payments, online payments, and if somebody wants to pay with the, I had a lockbox there so they can pay with the money order as well. So I said, I'm not sitting there. I hired 2 maintenance guys, one for the cleaning, one for the maintenance, and I just put them online so that whenever I receive an email, they receive an email as well. So they know what's going on, and so they can work out. I spend about 8 or 9 hours a week on these properties to manage all these 40 single family houses.
So he was spending 40 hours a week. You cut that down around 8 hours a week, making it simple with the systems and processes, streamlining all of that. And making it work for you. I love that. Hey, KK, I want to talk a little bit more about kind of that transition into real estate, right? So you get those 40 single family houses. I know you started to invest in multifamily shortly thereafter. You're almost at 3,000 units, a little bit short of 3,000 units at the time that this will air with your latest deal here. Why multifamily? You had the 40 single family rentals. Why did you decide to make that transition into multifamily?
Okay, the reason why I moved to multifamily was my main problem was I was paying a lot of tax because of all these gas station, laundromat businesses that I had. I was paying a lot of tax, and I thought, well, we bought some real estate now. Real estate people don't pay taxes, but we ended up paying even more tax because we made a lot of money on the single family as well. So we ended up paying more taxes. I said, no, we are doing something wrong. So I started researching how to pay less taxes with real estate and all that. Then I came across the syndication process.
There you go. So that's
So
it, right? So that multifamily, I mean, it's a critical thing for people to understand, right? It's one thing to make money, which you had success between the gas stations, the laundromats, the single family rental portfolio, and anyone listening. I mean, think about it. You can make money through your W-2 job, through any business venture you have. You go to become an engineer, you become a doctor, you have a practice, you're making this money. The next part is, how do you keep it? Because the point is to keep the money and start to focus on generational wealth. I mean, going back to part of your story, working with your nephew, family members, friends, community members, part of the mission is to help the next generation and get everyone else in a more prosperous position. And if you're giving 50% to the government, it's just going to be a little bit harder to do that, right? So finding tax strategies, understanding what does the government want you to do, and they want you to invest in larger multifamily properties. That's why they give certain tax incentives. So you discover multifamily syndication. I know you've done some LP deals, some GP deals, and you've invested from that standpoint. What was that first deal like? Coming into a larger multifamily deal, what were the questions that you had for that person who's listening, who maybe they've been listening to these kind of conversations for a while now, but haven't got in? What was going on through your mind? And what were the things you wanted to see before you felt comfortable pulling a trigger on that first deal?
well, after I learned that this is not something that I would save money on, buying more single family. Even when we bought 40 single family, we had a lot of, and it was 2014, so we had a lot of people asking us to buy their properties as well. And I thought, okay, let's settle down first, and then we'll see which way we want to go. So in 2015, I ended up paying even more tax. So I said, no more single family houses. Let's learn how other people are saving money with real estate. So I started learning, and the first deal I invested, I learned about the syndication process. I learned about the minus K1s, paper losses, and I said, okay, this is something that I want to do. And we already had businesses. We had 40 single families. I had no intention being active in the real estate other than these single family houses. So I started investing. I had a meeting with the syndicator. You probably know him, Ivan Barrett. The first time we had a meeting, like a 15-minute meeting, 15 minutes. I had already prepared everything. I had questions written in, and we were like 15 minutes late because of we had a half an hour meeting, and we were 15 minutes late because of the traffic and our Indian culture too. Probably that too.
We got the same problem, man. It's okay.
Yeah, you know that. So I had 15, and I wrote him a check. And that's when actually I started learning more about the multifamily, the syndication, market research, and all kind of that. So I spent a lot of time listening to podcasts. And I'm a kind of a person that I invest money before I start learn. But touch wood, we have never lost money for not doing our homework upfront. But I suggest all your listeners to do their homework before they invest any money. And we'll come to that too. But after that, I started researching, learning, listening to podcasts, reading articles, and reading books, multifamily books. So slowly, I thought, oh, I have so much knowledge now. I attended some boot camps. I attended some other events. So I learned so much. Why don't I become active and educate other people and then ask them to invest in our deals too? So finally, I became a syndicator, as mostly I have done equity raise for other people, and I sit on asset management calls.
Awesome, man. I love it. I love it. And I think too, like, the thing that jumps out to me is you talked about taking action, right? You wrote that check after a 15-minute meeting, which is
Correct.
not very common for most people, but there must have been something that made you feel comfortable. I mean, I know that part of what you've done is you understood how to quickly get comfortable with people and vetting people, right? So you don't necessarily, the thing that I'm taking away is you don't necessarily need to run background checks and do everything else that someone may do, ask a list of 50 questions and all those kind of things. You tend to get a good vibe of someone. You kind of understand what you're looking for. And, if all of those things check the marks, then you're comfortable moving forward and you're willing to take action and you're willing to say, okay, hey, let's try this, let's see how it works, and let's adjust. And I think that's a great thing to take. And again, I'm not advising anyone to just run out and start writing checks. But what I am saying is some people overanalyze to the point where you never really take action. And you don't want to be in that situation either. So if you've had a chance to get to know someone, if you've had people refer or recommend someone, if you've had a chance to sit down, interview, ask the questions that you have or get the answers, do your own homework and research and get comfortable in the process. Once you get that and get 80, 85% there, pull the trigger because you're never going to get 100% comfortable. Once you get a chance to get in a deal and the bullets are real, your money's on the line, you will ask better questions. When you're ready to invest, guess what? You'll figure out the questions you want to know the answers to, where you're not necessarily thinking about a deal from that perspective if you're just reading a book or listening to a podcast. So part of what you have to do is take action. And if it's not a deal that's going to break you or put you in a really bad position, try to move forward and learn. And that is the best thing you can do because, even when things don't go 100% the right way, you're going to learn and you're going to get better and you're going to know better questions to ask and better things to look for. And that's just going to make you a better investor. And the one other thing when it comes to multifamily syndication versus say those single family houses or other types of deals is you get to lean on the power of the masses. So in a multifamily syndication deal, most of the time they're doing webinars. So we're going to sit down and we're going to have all of the passive investors on a call. We're going to talk about a deal and other passive investors are going to ask questions. So you may not know the questions, but they're going to ask great questions too. So it's like being a kid in class and you get to let the other smart kids ask all the tough questions. And then you get to watch and see how people respond and understand, based on those responses, how comfortable do you feel? So sometimes just taking action and moving forward is the best way to see that progress. So you've transitioned now. You are general partner. I know you've got a couple of deals going on right now as well. What has that transition been like going from a passive investor, limited partner to an active investor on the general partnership side?
Well, I joined Radcliffe's mastermind, and that's where I got exposure to a lot of syndicators, became my friends, met a lot of people, attended 3 of them actually. On the very first, when I was doing my research, mostly on bigger pockets, so I was also checking the track record of other people. So I was making list as well, list of syndicators, and I was following them on bigger pockets to check their track record, how they're doing, what they're doing, what market are they investing in. So I was already doing the homework. And I had invested in single families, so I knew the process and everything. And then I knew there's several pieces to a syndication: sourcing, analyzing, doing due diligence, then underwriting, and then you are raising money for it. Then you're doing asset management. I couldn't do all of it myself at this time, so I decided to team up with other syndicators who were operationals so that I can raise money for their deals and become a part of the deal. And learn more about the ins and outs of the multifamily syndication before I do myself.
No, and that's a great way. I mean, to your point, you learn everything yourself, right? You go through that process, you're building a network of investors, you are vetting them, you're learning more about what markets are they in, what is their process, what's their track record. And then as you are building kind of your own database, you can take the knowledge you do have and not take on everything, right? Which is a big mistake I see a lot of people make. And even when we were starting out, it was one of the things that really slowed us down because I was trying to do everything and trying to do everything yourself, put together, find a deal, underwrite the deal, raise all the capital you need for the deal, manage the deal. That's just a lot of work to do for your first time out of the gate. And you don't know what you don't know. And I don't care what kind of training you have. There's going to be stuff that comes up that you just didn't anticipate. So the best thing you can do to start out and to really make the process easy is join up with another experienced operator and play a smaller role, but use that to gain more experience, build your credibility, build your confidence, and now you're ready to take on more as you move forward. And then after you do that once or twice, by all means, you can do your own deal or whatever you want to do. And I'm not saying you have to do this. I am saying it's the path of least resistance, though, because it's going to be much easier for you to do it. And you're going to be way more confident if you've been down the pathway a couple of times, even if you're just a general partner, even if you just play a small role in a general partnership team. It's going to be much easier going through the process, knowing what questions to ask, having people on your corner that you can call on and say, hey, I got this question or I'm in this situation. What should I do? It's going to be a much easier process than if you try to do everything out of the gate by yourself.
Yeah, it's a lot better because you don't have to hire people. If you're doing 1 or 2 deals a year, you don't have to pay them for the whole year. So it's better to team up with other people and do one part, whichever you are good at. So I had a lot of track record with the Indian people, and I have a Facebook group, more than 3,000 members on my Facebook group, and I do Tuesday night calls as well to educate my investors and other people, members of my group. So I'm trying to build up an investor base rather than finding deals. I would let somebody else find the deal, underwrite the deal, and bring that. And that way also it's same kind of like diversification as well. I don't have to do all the deals with the same people. I don't have to do all the deals with the same market. So I can diversify with markets as well as the track record syndicators as well.
Yeah. And I think too, obviously when you start talking about the equity portion of it, there's some rules for the SEC, but if you are a true general partner and you're involved in the actual deal and you are, have a strong partnership and you're part of that partnership team, then you can kind of identify where you want to play and which deals you want to come on board with and how you structure that. And I think to your point, focusing in on a specific skill set versus trying to learn 6 or 7 different skill sets is definitely a way where you can grow because it's easier to just do one thing and build a huge following and build a great community and engage with people. And I think that's one thing that you've done an excellent job of, going back through that first gas station is really understanding the power of community, building community, cultivating community, and creating opportunities within the community where people are really getting great value. They're getting the stepping stones, they're given the experience, they're given opportunities to really move forward and go to the next level and getting the education and training and opportunities that they need where maybe they wouldn't get that otherwise. So I think that's something that really jumps out to me about what you've been able to build. You've got your 10X multifamily group on Facebook, which I know is a huge following and has seen a lot of good growth over the last, 6 months or so? I mean, I don't even think you've had it that long, right?
6 months.
6 months, yeah. So about 6 months or so you've had that group and over 3,000 people, great engagement there. And, love just everything you're doing from that perspective. So keep it up. Hey, I want to transition and just talk a little bit about some of the markets you're looking at, right? You started talking about diversifying through operators and markets. What do you look for in a market? And tell me some of the markets that you're kind of keen on right now.
Okay. Before I go and answer your question, let me tell you that I didn't pay. Since I have been investing in multifamily, I have been getting minus K1 losses. So I have been writing off my other income from my gas stations. with that. So I paid little taxes the last year. And last year, I didn't have to pay any taxes. The next year, I didn't have to pay any taxes. So I think for my accountant, I just had a meeting a few days ago, and he said, the way you are investing, you may not have to pay any taxes at all.
I love it. I love it.
I have not been paying taxes. And
Love
now
it.
I come to your question. So the first thing I look, even if whether it's a passive investment or a general partnership, I like to look at the track record of the syndicator, his experience, how many deals he has done, what markets he is in, and how honest and straightforward he or his team is. So the second thing is to look at the market, and third thing is the property. So I have already talked about how I vetted the syndicators by being in multifamily groups and by investing, following people over bigger pockets, seeing their knowledge and all that stuff. And then I have my own criteria, which a lot of syndicators use. I research markets by rent growth, job growth, and population growth. And I always want to see the crime as well. There's a whole list. I have a written criteria of investing. What kind of properties do I invest in, whether it's a general partner or a limited partner. If I don't feel comfortable investing my money myself, I do not want to put that deal in front of somebody else. And I always invest money in my deals as a general partner as well.
There you go. So rent growth, job growth, population growth. Those are kind of three metrics you look at, which we look at as well.
Crime going down.
Crime. We want crime to be, going down as well.
And other things going up, crime to going down.
That's right. That's right. Ultimately, and I think, the way I talk about it is like, there's a ton of different metrics. We look at those three as well. We look at the ease of doing business. We look at, how landlord friendly is a market in particular that the city or the county, depending on who has jurisdiction. But I think the ultimate thing that, I want our listeners to take away is what you're trying to do is you're trying to understand future demand as it relates to current demand. Can you realistically expect demand in the future to be stronger than it is today? And those numbers, that's all we're trying to gauge. We're trying to say, hey, if rents are going up, if population is going up, if job growth is going up, if crime is going down, this area is becoming a more hotbed, an area that has more demand than today. And we expect it to be, more of that in the future. Now, the one other thing that we like to look at, we don't spend a crazy amount of time. We do like to look at supply and demand. So how much new development, how much new construction is coming on to the area. So if we have an area that we feel is great, but you have thousands of new apartment units coming on board, well, that may hurt your ability to drive up rents, right? So you do need to kind of pay a little bit of attention to supply and demand. But nonetheless, ultimately, when you're looking at the area itself, from an area standpoint, you want to make sure that there's infrastructure growth, there's development. And if you have those things, you've done about 50% of the work, right? Because that means that you're in a good area where others are investing, which means people want to live there. And quite frankly, I know you and I do a similar business model with Class B, Class C plus type apartments. So even when you have that new construction, new development, they're not really competing with our units because those are brand new high-end construction, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 rents. And we're focusing more on that B class, C plus class, where yes, right. So it's the more working class. So it's not really that same tenant base. And you cannot build new construction for the working class where it's going to make sense. Maybe affordable if you get some grants or something from the government, but not in that sweet spot that we're playing in. So for us, even when we look at supply, we just want to understand how much new apartments are coming onto the market. Yeah. But the tenant base is not really the same tenant that's going to be in that Class A new development construction. KK, so you've really helped a lot of people when we talked about community. Do you have like a story? Is there someone or anything special that you've been able to see just from any of the people that you've worked with as far as the growth or helping people out of situations that they may have been in that you want to share?
Um, I'll share something else rather than what your question is, which I think is very important, is giving. We have our own charity. So in our charity, we have like 6 other organizations that we paid for their food. We have like 15 kids that we have adopted. We pay for food, their food, lodging, and education. And we have hired some teachers in India for special need kids. And also we paid to an organization called Khalsa, which goes all over the world, where you might have heard of Khalsa. Where they go all over the world to help people in time of natural calamities. So we have had that since 2009. And our charity is growing, and we don't accept any donations from anyone. So it's just our money, and we have been growing along with our businesses, because we are always putting money from our businesses to the charity. So that is something I like to do. I like to help others as well as we grow. So it automatically gives you back. God automatically gives you back 10 times when you give somebody.
Yeah, KK, I love that, man. I mean, we talk about community impact, and I know a lot of times we talk about multifamily investing, and we talk about the cash flow and the tax benefits and bonus depreciation. But when you can really impact the community and use some of those proceeds to reinvest in communities and help people who really need assistance, kind of moving their life forward, I think that really is the underscoring theme of real power, and the power of real estate and the power of multifamily is being able to impact your community. So I appreciate you doing what you do for those charities and those organizations. Let's move on to our Bullseye Round. You ready?
Yep.
All right. What is the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year?
The first book I read was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I like to hand over a book. I have a bunch of books. So whenever somebody meets me for coffee or dinner, I hand over that book. So it's kind of a basic book for multifamily. And also I have an online version of Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I always try to give that book too.
All right, give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
Okay, I use Evernote a lot, and I'm an Evernote consultant as well. I don't make money off it, but I love that app a lot, and I use it in everyday life, several times a day for everything. And the other app I use is, of course, Facebook. LinkedIn, Facebook, of course. I don't want to leave them behind. My Habits is another app that I use for accountability.
All right. Speaking of My Habits, what's a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals?
Well, I wake up early in the morning, and I do my daily prayers. I'm a baptized Sikh, so I have to do my daily prayers in the morning and daily prayers in the evening as well. So I do that. I do some yoga and just started doing some meditation as well. And I work from home now, so I'm at home most of the time. Other than I just go out for meetings, and a lot of meetings I do on phone as well, or Zoom calls. And in the evening we do prayers as well, and during the day, whatever If I have my appointments outside my house, I go to the meetings, which I'm going to do now immediately after this. I have an appointment. So basically, I stick to my habits. I go to the gym as well in the evening. Sometimes I skip, but I have on my habits, I have certain days that I have to be there. So that app keeps me accountable.
What advice would you give to a smart-driven college student about the real world?
Invest in yourself before you start investing in real estate.
Love that. What advice should they ignore?
They should ignore negative people. Negativity, they should ignore.
What are you curious about right now?
I'm curious about the economic cycle, where we are in the economic cycle now. How is it going to play during the next couple of years? So I'm curious what's going to happen in next 2 years.
All right, we've talked about Fort Wayne a little bit, but I'll let you pick wherever you want. Fort Wayne, Indianapolis. Give me the best place to grab a bite.
I'm a vegetarian, so I'm not very much fond of going out to eat, but I like some Thai places other than Indian food. Indian food is great, and my wife cooks great food at home since she stays home, and but Thai places, I like Thai food.
All right, so Thai food, when it's not Indian food at home, you're eating Thai food. Appreciate it. Listen, KK, lots of great information today. Loved hearing your story, and I loved really your commitment to community. I think that was the one thing that really rang true about everything that you worked on, both from, your upbringing, kind of getting into the gas station business, the laundromat business, the 40 single family homes, and not just multifamily, but really kind of the 10X community you've built on Facebook, and really helping other people learn and grow and really understand how they can have some of the same advantages and same success that you've been able to have. We look forward to staying in touch, KK. But for our listeners who want to get in touch with you now, what's the best way for them to reach out?
They can go to growrichcapital.com and they can put their information there, and also they can schedule a call with me.
And then your Facebook group, I know it says 10X Multifamily, 10X, right?
Multifamily Investment Group. That's another way to contact me as well.
Excellent.
Messenger or kk@growrichcapital.com.
There you go.
My email address, KY. It's on the screen as well. So that's the other way. And John, before we let it go, I want to suggest something to your investor. Unless you take action, knowledge means nothing. That's my key to success. Just as I told you, I wrote a check of $50,000 in 15 minutes. The reason I had done my own research already, I just wanted to meet him face to face. And I have never met any of my other syndicators face to face.
Wow.
First one.
Wow. That's impressive.
Five investments with Joe Fairless. I've never met Joe Fairless face to face.
Wow. That's impressive, man. But I think to your point, going back to what you talked about as far as community and character, understanding character, doing your research, and then pulling the trigger. I think that's the big takeaway. Yep. Absolutely, man. So making sure we're taking action and making those investments and seeing the results. So if you've been researching, listening to episode after episode, reading book after book and post after post, it's time to make the investment. If you have the money, it's time to make the investment. If you don't have the money, it's time to take the actions you need to get the money. But KK, great information today, man. Grow Rich Capital. We'll make sure we link to all of that in the show note. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you very much for having me, John. It was my pleasure.